Okay,
And
there we
trying to
go.
get
I'm
away
just saying,
You're just trying to get away from the fire.
Okay.
How do you look at that? You're coming off a big, emotional, important win, and you had 5 days to recover, and you're going to another game. How do you look at that? Does the momentum carry over? Do you worry about a letdown? What's your take on that?
The veterans of the team and the leaders of the team have quickly talked about how important the win was, and now how focused we need to be to keep moving ourselves forward. So I didn't even need to do much because Carlos and Jordan and a few others have taken the lead.
Coach, when we saw the bracket, obviously everyone thought that if things played out the way they were supposed to, Galaxy would be the toughest opponent. Not that things are going to get easier, but with that sort of, Goliath out of the way, does that alleviate your, road to MLS Cup?
This year, Seattle was a much better team than the Galaxy. More solid in every way, and now that they've had 2 playoff games, the confidence that they have and the belief that they have is very strong. So this is a tough test to get to a final, and we never ever underestimate any of our opponents. It's only when you respect teams and see what they're all about and appreciate what they do every day that you can prepare properly. So that's where we are.
Is that regardless of the fact that they've, again, turning the tables like the Galaxy, they've never been able to beat you? So
we've not played them in so long.
Yeah.
We played them back to back with the way the schedule works sometimes, and that was a long time ago. They've grown as a team. Rui Diaz hasn't played against us so far, so I'm sure they've got all sorts of things to talk about to give confidence on their end. So, like I said, we respect teams. I'll give you an example that for them, Ladero is heart and soul of that team. Important captain, put so much into it. So we know that when we step on the field, we've got to do a good job to make it difficult for Ladero and others, because other than that, these are the kind of guys that can win games.
So how much of what you learned from when you played them in April, how much of that matters at all now? 10%, 15%?
There are certain parts to the way they play, certain things that we saw, characteristics of players that can still carry over that time. But in a long season, you have to gauge where they are now in terms of their form and their confidence, and it's much different now than it was earlier in the year.
Based off of what you've seen more recently from Seattle, talking X's and O's, what are the biggest football challenges that they're going to provide for you guys tomorrow night on the field?
Jordan Morris is in really good form. His understanding with Rui Diaz is very good. Rui Diaz likes to move around. Jordan has a good way then from outside to come in and be on the move going forward. Ladero is somebody who's going to go to find the ball, and so our ability, we can never have one person be responsible for Ladero because he's all over the field. So you've got to have good recognition of where he is and how to try to take away certain things from him. Their outside backs are constantly on the move going forward. I think they've added that in addition to coming forward out wide, that in certain moments when the attacker's wide, they come inside and go through. So they've done a good job adding some different ideas with their outside backs.
Bob, Beta Shore last game made a bad pass, which led to Zlatan's goal. How thin is the line for the LAFC players if they commit an error, they're coming out of the game?
We never, ever take a guy out because he made a mistake. So we make so many mistakes in games. The way we work is to, as a team, make plays. Not worry about making mistakes. Make plays. Okay, react. If your teammate gets beat, you're ready to bail him out. Making the right passes, not being afraid to play balls forward. If you create an environment where guys are just afraid to make a mistake, if guys are afraid to give a pass away, then there's no chance you can become a real team. So Steve coming out of the game has nothing to do with that play. If it doesn't hit Tristan, okay, it goes back to Tyler. It caught Tristan by surprise. There's so many parts to that play. So, look, Steve's been such an important player for us, and everyone knew that coming into that game, Walker, after the head injury versus Colorado, was working his way back. He wasn't quite 100%, even though he had been cleared, and we made the decision to start that way, knowing that we could change the game.
Status on K?
He's available. Yeah.
How about Mark Anthony?
That's the same as K.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking that way.
You spend so much time in Carson, man, that you don't even know the guys on our team. Holy shit.
Coach, about 16, 17 goals have been scored combined with the 2 games that they've had in the playoffs and the one you had against the Galaxy. That incredible number of goals, that offensive production, is that a good reflection on MLS? The sort of offensive mindedness of the league, or can that be misinterpreted elsewhere?
You have to judge all leagues by the quality of the games. There can be 0-0 games that are poor. There can be 5-5 games that are poor. So the quality of football, the commitment of teams, the tactical part of it. There's all these other ways that you look at games. Speaking about LAFC, we have always tried to be a team that understands how to go forward, that has ideas on how we can create chances. When you play that way, when you play with some risk, then it also means that you're asking more of your players defensively. Sometimes teams that defend very deep all the time and are very, very structured with their team shape, that gives them starting points defensively, but I'm not always sure how that then lends itself to what happens when you get the ball. So, look, every team has to figure out its own way to play, and then every game takes on its own life. So I don't think you can just use the number of goals as a gauge one way or the other.
But is that better for the sport, Bob, and prioritizing the attacking style and seeing more goals other than defending, or spending more on top level
I think
defenders?
For me, that's too general. For sure, if you went through a season and all the games were 0-0, then at a certain point that would be pretty boring, right? But when we talk about growing as a league, then we have to talk about all facets of the game. So sometimes to really appreciate the best attackers, there have to be really good defenders, because these things go hand in hand. And so I think that, again, good games, competitive games, and then what you want to see is you want to see talent. And the talent that Carlos has, that's so special, and this year has been just amazing to see. But then there's also talent that a player like Eddie Segura has. Maybe not everyone that comes to our games sees what Eddie Segura does, but the way he reads situations and his ability to step in at the right time, anticipate a play. These are all the beautiful details of football. And again, we'd all be very sad if we didn't have the Pelés and the Maradonas and the Messis. And now in this season, there's been some great stars in MLS, and certainly we believe Carlos has been one of the best. But in other parts of the field, there are players that do small things that are so special. And so we need more, I always say that when people watch games, to see details and to appreciate all the qualities of what players bring, and to talk about that, write about it, because that's how the game grows. So I think it's a package of everything.
With everything that you guys have accomplished and the expectations that are in place here, is it easy to forget that this is just a 2-year-old franchise? with what you guys have already done?
Well, anytime, I know this is very controversial, okay, because there are different ways to look at this, but anytime some of the people inside LAFC say franchise, I get really angry because I say, no, we have to be a club.
Okay.
Okay.
2-year-old club then.
So yes, a 2-year-old club, because we want to make sure that we are really a club that's connected with Los Angeles and connected with our supporters. And so the idea that, yeah, we're only 2 years in, we're proud of what's happened in 2 years, but we know that because we know that there's still so much work to do. You can never get ahead of yourselves. Some of the good things that have been started, that's only the beginning. So yes, we know that. We're proud of what's happened in almost 2 years. And look, for people in the organization, it's been more than 2 years because they got the ball rolling before we played our first game. So we know that, and we continue to try to push ourselves forward.
Bob, you
building
speak about leadership, and you said after the game that not only Carlos but also Steve and Jordan Harvey are leaders, and other players. So is it something that you nurture here in the culture that you have? Is it something that they take advantage of that to become those leaders, or is it something that they already have in them to become leaders of a team?
Yeah, I'm sure it's both. I mean, certainly we try to create a good environment every day where people are challenged and where people's opinions count, and where they know that when they show up every day, their best efforts are important. They bring their personality, and with it, yeah, you challenge guys to not only think about themselves, but to think about the group, to try to